So my name's Marc Methot. I'm the crazy person who brought back Cartoons magazine. So I remember this is going back in the early 80s. I went with my parents to a corner store, and while they were doing whatever, I went to the newsstand and I was looking and I found this magazine called Cartoons, and I was taking a look at it, and it was like this comic book about car stuff. And I was growing up, I loved cars. And after reading it, I asked my parents if they could buy me a copy. I brought it home, read the whole thing 50 million times. I loved it. So every 2 months I went back, bought myself another copy, right up until I remember in 91. I kept going back and there was never a new issue, and that's when they stopped printing it. So then we're looking at 30 years later, give or take, and the rights was up for Cartoons. It was expired for about 4 months, so I applied for the trademark. I ended up getting it, and I'm like, you know what? I know nothing about publishing, absolutely, but you know what? Let's do it. So I went full force, went in and gathered up a lot of the original artists from the magazine, got a lot of new artists, and we started doing Cartoons. And I went full force in and distribution, everything, and subscriptions. And 10 years later, we're here still doing it. 2016 was our first issue that was released to distribution and all that. Yeah, I grew up with cars. My dad he always owned classic cars, so I've been at car shows, everything. So so Cartoons I got sucked right in with that, and the artwork. You know, I'm an artist myself, so seeing all the different types of art in that. And back then you had like George Trozzi is one of everybody's favorites. Sean Carey is another big one. Even Joe Boyer and on and on. I think if I go back in time, I would have did a lot of things differently. But I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to jump right in. We're going to publish, and it's going to blow right up, right? But with the industry today and the internet, it's so locked down that, you know, unless you have a big budget to advertise and pay, it's not reaching the people that we want it to. But those who find out that it's back, they go crazy. I even have customers that'll go on my website even tomorrow and buy up every back issue, because we have every back issue available. And that's unheard of when it comes to a magazine, because people love it. It's a comic book, it's a collectible, right? They love the art and all that. So, you know, I pretty much learned a lot myself on research and publishing in that. At the time, there was a guy named Steve. He was running Rat Rod magazine. And I met Steve and I knew him. So if I ever had questions on that, I would reach out to him. He was awesome. And and then we just went in, got the artists in, and we started that, and you know, got a distributor, got into comic shops, started subscriptions. I remember when I first got the trademark and I announced it on social media that I was bringing it back, a lot of people were skeptical. They were like, you don't own that. Like, they thought I was like some scammer or something. So I remember we were starting to work on our first issue, but ahead of time. So I just told everybody, I said, we're going to put this together as like a limited edition trial issue to get it out there just to show people like, we're serious, right? So that's what we had. We had a trial issue. We had that out. And then once people realized in the website, they started getting on, subscribing in that. And then we started with issue 1 and on. And right now we're working on issue 64. So it's been 10 years. Publish bi-monthly, and even that's not enough time. It just seems like we just finished and then boom, we've got deadlines again. I wish I could have went quarterly, just because, you know, and I'll give an artist an assignment to say, like, we're going to do a themed issue, right? We're going to focus on hot rods or muscle cars or lowriders, you know, a theme to something. So then they got to create the story. Then they got to send those roughs to me for approval, because I want to keep it family friendly, but still have adult humor in it, you know, because we want to entertain all ages. And then once it's approved, well, then they got to do the final work and all that and get it in just in time for publishing. And when you're dealing with, about 15 artists in the magazine, sometimes we've had some pretty crunch times that we were days away going to print and we're waiting it to come in. And then you got editing, with grammar and all that stuff. And it's a lot of work for even every 2 months. I always call cartoons a comic book mag, right? Because it's not your throwaway magazine. You read it, it's all full ads, you enjoy the mag, throw it away. It's a collectible, you don't want to keep it, you want to put it away, just like you would on any kind of comic book, you know what I mean? Especially if you're a gearhead and love cars. I know with cartoons, the biggest thing I've learned, it's such a recognizable logo, right? Everybody remembers the magazine. Not everyone's going to commit to buying the magazine. They loved it then. Maybe they're too old, they moved on. But I've decided I want to venture outside of the publication and do a lot of licensing deals. And I'm talking with a few companies now, and we want to branch out into other product lines and everything and get it a household name, get the word out there. So there's a lot of projects we're working on now. It's not locked in yet, but definitely when I do, it'll be plastered all over social media and everything. So, and you never know. You can see the next toy line, cartoons or whatever, right? So one thing I try and tell even the industry, I try and get advertised in the magazine, not much of it. I want to keep a little as possible, but I tell all those companies, this is what's going to inspire these young kids to get in the industry, right? They're going to read this, and when they get older, they're going to get a car of their own. They're going to want to buy those parts in that. You know what I mean? So this is what I feel cartoons is a big part of inspiring the young generation to keep them in the automotive industry, right? Instead of it dying off that a lot of people think it is, but there is a lot of kids out there that like it. I have a lot of kids that subscribe to the magazine and love it, and that's great. So, well, by social medias, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I even just started TikTok and slowly working that up. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that's pretty slow, but yeah, the biggest one I'd say is Instagram, then Facebook. So if you want, the best way right now to get Cartoons Magazine is you go to our website, cartoonsmag.com, and there you can subscribe. I have every back issue available. And what's great too is when the magazines get shipped to me, a lot of times some of the covers are damaged. You got a little crease in that. So if you buy a back issue, you have price options, right? So if you want a mint copy to put away for your collection, that's one price, and then it's cheaper if there's a few flaws in the cover. And then I have ones that, the cover is pretty rough, but it's still readable and cheap. So if you just want to read the issue and, you don't care about condition, then you get it a lot cheaper than that.